What's up, everybody? Welcome to TPI, the Total Podcast Idiots Show, where we cover everything and anything related to hardwood. We make sure to thank Steve for providing one of the best games of all time for absolutely free. I am
Yeah,
idiot
thank
number
you.
yeah, thank you, Steve. I am idiot number one, Robert. That's idiot number two, Andrew. Andrew, how you doing on this beautiful night?
I'm doing pretty well. I've just been preparing really hard, nose to the grindstone, preparing for this matchup I have against Steve tomorrow with Belgian New
Are
Rochelle.
you going to give us any game tactic breakdowns? Maybe a little bit of a preview of how you're going to attack Steve's team.
I mean, I could.
Can't speak today. Maybe you shouldn't reveal that the night before you face Steve. Probably not a good
He
idea.
has a very interesting team. I'll say that definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. What's
Yeah.
interesting about it?
Well, he's starting a 6'8" guy at small forward, number one.
Okay.
And that's tough to match up with. And, because I'm a person, a lot of my teams, I usually try to run someone like pretty tall at small forward these days.
Yeah.
But 6'8's like a whole nother level.
So let's take a look at Cal State Monterey Bay, the Otters.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. 6'8.5" at small forward. My gosh.
Yeah, Evan Samples. Yeah.
Evan Samples. He's only a 121 SI as well.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing is about Cal State Monterey Bay, and I think it'll tie in really well with what we're going to talk about today. It's only 2 stars and some 3 stars, I think. Maybe
Right
not
now,
even
his
three
roster is
stars.
only 2 stars.
Only 2 stars. See, yeah, I was even overestimating. And like 11 pots, 10 pots, maybe a few 12 pots. Not, I don't think on this current roster, but like historically, there's been a few 12 pots. That's a very different your recruiting strategy than what a lot of people, I would say, do, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. So it's also interesting because the last 4 recruiting classes for the Cal State Monterey Bay Otters are ranked 852, 498, 480, and 478. So it's not like at any point Steve is reaching for the cream of the crop.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
But this is an LL2 team, and they've been in Legends recently, and
Yeah, that's the
so like
thing. They're
they have a lot
surviving.
of success. Yeah, yeah.
I am genuinely curious about this now. Yeah, so that's definitely unique to say the least. If anybody knows anything about the game more than us, it's Steve, right? I mean, Steve's the man.
I mean, I think a few other people know more than the game than us too.
That's fair, yes, but Steve knows more about the game than them.
He
I'm gonna
he's
go ahead
probably
and
at the
assume.
top.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
He's at the
probably
top of the mountain. Yeah.
yeah. If there's a hierarchy, it's Steve and then everyone else,
Yeah, for sure.
for sure.
But yeah, I think it ties in really nicely today because I think, well, we're gonna hit recruiting today. We're gonna talk about recruiting a lot today, right?
We are going to try to talk about, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about recruiting from multiple aspects and maybe try and identify some key things that people can zone in on when they're trying to decide what recruits they're going to go after and sort of like what their strategy might be.
Yeah, I mean, because like every day, maybe every couple days in the forums or the Discord, I see, questions about, am I going after the right player? What do you guys think about this player? Um, what should my recruiting strategy be? So I think this will help a lot of people. So it may not be as helpful for like, the really experienced people like Fury or Punk Ska.
Or
But
any of
a
those
lot of
guys in the
these,
Discord.
yeah, a lot of the Braden, a
Nav.
lot of them in the Discord, NAF, yeah. But as usual, we're gonna try to go from like a shallow level. Sorry, I'm trying to like get my hand to appear because it disappears. Like a shallow level, for the beginners, and then like a medium level, and then a deep level. And so hopefully that deep level is where the more experienced presidents can like really hone in on for their own thinking from this episode.
And I think it's certainly needed to be said that this is not a comprehensive recruiting guide, right? This is not something that if you're a new user to the game, a new president to the game, that you watch and you're going to find out every single answer and key to recruiting. That's certainly not what this is going to be. But we're just going to hit
Mm-hmm.
on some main topics that we have, identified as being important or the most obvious things to look for when you're recruiting, as well as like some anecdotal evidence of weird cases and stuff like that.
I think like it'll offer some tips for the beginners to look at and consider that they might not have before. And then, but then also we ask like questions that get people thinking about their own strategies and philosophies, I think. I that's where I kind of like this to be at. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good discussion starter, like you said, for sure. So without further ado, do you want to just jump right in?
Yeah. Well, I guess first thing I want to mention, sorry, is to like shout out Maryland's president, Cough Daddy. He's been doing like these reviews of all the 4s and 5 stars that have committed like every single day, and then like doing a little write up. But he's he's literally taken screenshots every day of like all the teams on those top rated prospects and like talked about the competitions, their actual recruiting competitions. Because once that prospect commits, we don't see every team that was on that prospect. So he's been putting in that time and work to do that, and then talk a little bit about the scouting report as well. So I just want to give props to him because it's been great to read.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but he's in our conference V3 with Maryland, right? And he does daily write-ups of the results, including like, hey, this player scored really well. They had this turnover advantage or this rebounding margin, and like analyzes some of the big upsets and stuff. So I'm like super appreciative of his contribution all over the board. Yeah.
It's been really great too to see that, because like I sometimes try to look at all the box scores from our conference, but like I don't know, sometimes I don't have the time, sometimes I also don't really care, but like he's been giving a nice summary for sure.
Yeah, I definitely don't look at all the box scores. I will browse over the games for the day, like just browse though. I mainly care about my team's results, and then like I'll look at the standings and then be like, oh, there's a shakeup there or something. But like I don't go nearly in depth as Cough Daddy goes into looking at the box scores and stuff.
Yeah, I think once conference play starts, I will do that more for our conference. First off, because there's less games to go through.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So from after that tangent, let's get into today's topic.
I play Columbia tomorrow. Yeah, so let's just jump into it. So like you said previously, in this show, we're going to sort of try and break down the topics from maybe like their visibility standpoint. So like, in terms of levels of like as a user, it's most obvious these things are going to affect your recruiting. And then there's a medium level of visibility for those things. And then like we get really deep and talk about things that are nuances of recruiting that may not be super obvious.
Yeah, I also want to throw out the disclaimer, like, again, we've been playing, well, now shoot, it's almost been, it's been 9 months, over 9 months. Wow.
That's wild.
But we still don't know a lot or everything. Certainly, we might know a lot, but
speak for yourself. I'm just kidding.
But we certainly don't know everything. We're gonna hit a few things today that we have literally no experience in. We haven't. Our first recruiting classes are just graduating. I guess a few of them may have graduated last season.
We're in season 5, so any redshirt players are still there. They're gonna be graduating this year.
Yeah, I think we're in season 6 technically, but like
oh yeah,
in terms of when we got them.
Yeah, you're right. We're in season 6.
In terms of when we got the recruits that we first recruited. Yeah.
Wow, we're in season 6.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
We haven't seen like a full development cycle, recruiting cycle still. So that I think that's important to keep in mind when listening to us.
We really haven't. Like, yeah, this is our first cycle of guys graduating. Wow.
We didn't know what we were going to do today. So I posited to Rob that we should just bask on the glory of our first recruiting classes today. But
I mean,
but instead, no, we're going to talk about recruiting.
I absolutely love my first recruiting classes. Some instant legends coming out of those classes, to say the least.
Okay, we'll talk about it another day, probably.
Yeah, we certainly will.
All right. To recruiting. Sorry, everyone. Again, tangents. We love the tangents.
Recruits.
So yeah, that shallow level, like what's the first thing you learned in this game, basically?
You should target in-state players.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So even before we signed up for a team, what was our initial thinking, right? Coming from a
Yeah.
knowledge of college football and college basketball background in terms of recruiting, our first thoughts were, okay, what's a team that I could actually like, right? We wanted to find schools, not some random school we have no tie to or don't care about. And I mean, I guess I don't really have any tie to Santa Clara, but the point's moved. And then we wanted to find those teams in states that we thought would have fertile recruiting grounds, right? Those are our first two
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah. Basically, like that was like we've played video games and other simulators where like there's this type of engine where you recruit, and so like there is such a thing as having talent rich areas, right? So yeah, we're from California, so like it's helped. Our decision to take teams in California is helped by that, but California is one of the most, I think it's the most populous state, I'm not sure, even in the country.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We're not good at geopolitical stuff, guys. But we know it's one of the most populous states. Oh, I feel so embarrassed for not knowing this. But it's going to have like a high population in this game, and thus a lot of talent.
Okay, it's the most populous state.
Okay, good. Now,
followed by Texas, Florida, and New York.
All the commenters can lay off me there. They didn't lay off you on the Roman numeral thing.
That's fine. I really always get mixed up with that, and I don't know why. NAF with the commentary, it's not as difficult as you're making it. Yes, I get it, sir. Okay, I get it. It's one of the things that I get bumped up on. Good day.
Yeah, so I mean, there's been a lot of talk about California in recruiting. I think in the Discord recently, I think because like Tennessee has mentioned that they like to go out into California to recruit, and I know they're like starting power forward right now. I think Jeff Gallagher is his name, is from California. I remember when we were first starting, I remember seeing him. I don't know if you remember Gallagher, Rob.
Nope. I only care about the players I get.
Yeah, I just remember Gallagher was like a 12 pot. He was already 100 SI when we were looking at him. I didn't think much of him, but he's turned into a decent player for a Legends team, right?
He's from Inglewood. Interesting.
Yeah.
They aren't Legends anymore.
Oh, they're not. They're LO2.
Yeah, but still, that's freaking great. But yeah, he's a 140 SI player now, so as a redshirt junior, so it's more than serviceable at power forward, to say the least.
Yeah. So like, lots of like, there's always going to be under recruited talent in California, basically. Just because there's so much people. So definitely like a talent rich state, California. There's others, like Rob said, New York is one. Texas.
Florida.
We've found some good finds in Texas, haven't we?
Yep, certainly. I'd say
Florida's not always
another one.
Getting them.
No, yeah.
Florida.
Texas is really competitive because there's a lot of really good programs there. That's something else that we should at least mention the fact that, like, sure, recruiting in California has its benefits because there are, number one, a lot of recruits, and number two, there's going to be gems that you can find that are under recruited. But if you're in a state like California where you have so many powerhouse programs, like, there's going to be intense competition for all of those top recruits, right? And just coming to mind are USC, UCLA, St. Mary's now is rising up, Azusa Pacific, like Stanford, Santa Barbara, like, and I'm sure there's a ton more that I'm missing, Santa Clara, Dominica, I'm just kidding. But I'm sure there's a ton more that I'm missing, but like, that's enough, right? I mean, freaking Steve's team. And then Cal State Dominguez Hills. There's a lot.
I don't actually think, like, I think a lot of the California schools are like LL3 and LL4 mainly. I mean, obviously there's Azusa Pacific and Monterey Bay and San Jose State, but like, I think only UCLA is the only California team in Legends.
Sure, but you just mentioned they're LL3, LL4, but as programs that we took over at the bottom of LL6, that's a steep climb. Like LL6, and now we're in LL5 with our California programs. We're still LL4 and LL3 have D1 advantages over us.
Yeah, but I think like Texas has more LL2 and LL1 teams. I
Sure,
think.
yeah. I mean, I was just using California as an example, but yeah, Texas
Yeah.
does. Yeah, Texas is insane for sure. I've known with trying to recruit for
Right.
Kingsville and trying to get centers, everybody, Texas and Texas State and all these schools are jumping on them right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you know, we've mentioned, and we mentioned this when we did that first tips video, you know, when you're picking your team, like think of a talent rich state and you might want to go there. I mean, obviously you might want their like real challenge of having to recruit in the plains or, you know, whatever, right? So like that's important, but just know your options are more limited for sure.
They are, but also if you don't have other schools that are like, that are big, that are in your state, then you might have an advantage. And I don't know any examples off the top of my head besides like Alaska, Anchorage, I think it is. Because if I remember correctly, there was like a 4-star or 5-star that came from Alaska. There's the
Yeah,
Alaska,
this season, yeah.
yeah, that he landed, and it's like, well, if there's only 2, yeah, Stephen Vickery from Juneau, Alaska, he's a 4-star. So like if there's only 2 programs in Alaska, your competition is pretty low, right? We're not low, but it's much more simplified than than other cases.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Wow, they're both D1 though.
Yeah. You know, we've talked about a little bit about like some under recruited states, and like California, even though it's so big, is still like kind of under recruited. But then, you know, going down in terms of like numbers of prospects, but like still under recruited. You know, I've noticed Indiana, we've mentioned, and that being with such a lot of good teams as well, a lot of good programs. North Carolina,
North
I know a
Carolina
lot
for
of the,
sure.
yeah, a lot of the South teams like going up into there. I know like Mississippi and Tennessee, they were both like, yeah, we like North Carolina too. Sorry to, you know, blurt
Hey,
that out again. I
they
know they
said it
wanted to
on the
keep it secret.
Discord. They were trying to
I
keep it
know,
hush,
yeah.
but they said it on the Discord. That's their fault.
Yeah. I
So
mean, and don't think
don't
we
get
didn't
mad at
notice
us.
either. Yeah. So, you know, states like that. I think Utah is actually like pretty decent at times. So yeah, the mountain region has some. I don't know about anywhere else. Michigan is like okay. Ohio's
I mean, I don't.
decent.
I like I said, I stay in state most of the time, or in region maybe. But like, I don't. The only time I venture out to those states is if like I desperately need a big, and I'm gonna find an under recruited big.
Yeah.
Right, like that's the most common scenario. But like in terms of like in-state and in-region advantages, I would say that's the most obvious factor that you should consider when you're starting to find recruits, right? And
Yeah.
so we have a habit of tracking a lot of our progression on our recruits, right? In terms of contacts and stuff like that. And we certainly notice that in-state progression between sublevels, so from low to low plus plus to medium sort of thing, is much, much more faster in state than it is even in region and of course out of state, right?
Totally.
And
Yeah.
and the difference in the number of contacts that it takes to move out of state versus in state is substantial enough to affect an entire recruiting class, I would say.
Yeah, I would say like if you're trying to like really maximize your points, or you're like strained, like let's say you join in like the middle of the season and you really have to like be really efficient, you can't afford to go out of state. And even then, like if you're LL6 and but you're at the beginning of the season, you might be able to afford going after one out of state, out of region guy. But going after multiple, unless it's like super late in the season and no one's on them still, I just wouldn't advise it. It's just not efficient in terms of the point spending. And that's even if you get them. If you don't get them, then you're out. Like
That's what I was gonna say,
disastrous.
right? It's like in most scenarios, even if you're LL5, LL6, L4, whatever it is, like in most scenarios, more often than not, like you're going to be in battles for at least one recruit you're going after, right? And so if you're reaching for an out-of-state guy and it's taking, let's say, 7 or 8 contacts to move a sub-level, and you're in competition on an in-state guy that you really want that's taking, 3 or 4 contacts to move a sub-level or something like that, but it's also taking 3 or 4 contacts for someone else who's in-state that's moving on that guy. Like, how do you divvy up the points per day to spend on those 2 players, knowing that your competition on your in-state target is moving up quickly, right? And they probably, maybe they haven't prioritized or something like that, versus like you're moving really slow on your out-of-state target and their in-state schools are probably trying to move it faster. It just it's really high risk and really low reward, in my opinion.
Yeah. And like definitely put this video together with that first one we did where we talked about like SI growth.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you could probably find high SI guys who have no competition because their SI growth rate has been poor. They have really poor builds, and then you can get them real cheap, and it looks really great because they're have high SIs, and that may be what you target, and it still may work out. But I don't know. To me, it's just not who I go after.
Yeah. There's a specific player that's coming to mind. I believe that I found with Oswego, that is an example of someone who has like a less than ideal eval, a less than ideal build, but like is a higher SI guy. So this is a guy that I noticed, Mitch Padgett, right? He's in region for me. He's from New Jersey. He's an 86 SI, 12 pot, 3-star, right? So when you're just doing an initial search of recruits, you see 86 SI, 12 pot, 3-star. He was like an 84 as a junior. I click, the first thing I notice is he goes 37 to 53, his high school to sophomore year. Then he goes 53 to 71, 71 to 84. Okay, this guy's like a developmental growth monster, right? This is exactly what I want.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. But then you look at his eval, right? For a small forward, could be an above average shooter, could really be a long range shooter, could never be a good rebounder, can be a really smart player, good all around defensive player, skilled passer. So these are things that like, you're like, oh, hey, these are really good. We'll always be a bit sluggish. We'll struggle with slower tempo offense, good all around player, right? But that doesn't necessarily tell you everything. You start looking at the SI, he has a 2 in perimeter defense.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So even if he can be a good all around defensive player, you have to hope that single category is going to rise at a rate faster than the rest, which is not likely. Right. So he's a 2 perimeter defense. He's a 3 inside shot, right? He's obviously got a little bit more elevated of levels for his shooting, outside shooting and stuff. He's a 4 rebounding. He's only like a 5 strength, 5 speed. So it's like, oh, okay. On an initial search, hey, 86 SI is not bad for a guy starting his senior year. He's going to, presumably get somewhere around 100. But then you see all this trash and you're like, all right, like no wonder nobody's interested in him.
Yeah, I mean, given that speed and that perimeter defense, he has to play inside, but then you look at his height, which isn't likely going to get to be like that big, 6'5", maybe.
No, I don't even think 6'5". Well, maybe
That's
because
possible.
he's gone 5'10" to 6.5, 6.5 to 6'2.5.
Yeah.
Maybe 6'5" is the like the highest
Right. Yeah.
end of that distribution. Yeah.
And then like maybe he's like a little over 200 pounds, and then that 3 inside shot, like it's not a great fit. I mean, it might work for someone out there, but
well, so that's what I was going to say, right?
Guy for the butts.
That's what I was going to say is like, if you are an LL6 team from New Jersey or New York and you're struggling to find good talent, I mean, you could probably move up quickly on this guy, take a shot.
This guy's pretty good for that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty good for that. And he's going to be a good scorer. Like the evidence is there that he's going to be a good scorer, right? And he has good SI growth year over year in college. And we just saw an example of someone the other day who started at like a 28 SI in high school and is now like a 148 or something, we said, right? Like SI as a senior or something like that.
Wasn't he like 170s or something?
Some ridiculous shit. I don't know. Yeah, it was insane. So like, it's not that it can't happen. It's just that there's indicators here that throw other teams off right away. Right. Yeah. So if you're some random New Jersey school who's LL6 or LL5 and you want to take a shot on somebody, take a shot on this guy, redshirt him, and maybe in 3 years he's something worth starting,
Oh, I know. St. Bonaventure. Hey, get on that guy. You're on too many big men. Get on that guy.
Yeah, there you go, St. Bonnie. Come on.
I just played them with Rochelle, and
oh, really?
I mean, they're on a lot of good big men, definitely. So, part of me is like, because I'm struggling to find a big with Rochelle, as you know.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice if they weren't on those bigs and instead went after this guy who might be a good fit for their roster too. So it's I'm looking out for them, but I'm also looking out for me.
You're looking out for yourself. Shut the hell up. So I would venture to say that in terms of recruiting, in-state and in-region advantages are probably, in terms of how quickly you move up sub-levels, in 90% of cases or whatnot, is probably the most significant factor.
I would agree. I think it's the most consistent thing.
Yeah.
And the most obvious thing that has an effect. Yeah.
Like we said, we have tracked the amount of contacts in the sub levels that they go up. And we, on average, we've had times where we put 3 contacts into an in-state guy and he's on low. You offer him a scholarship and then he goes to low plus. Well, it's going to take you, 10 contacts, you're going to get to medium. And if that's like early season or something and somebody else sees you're on medium, they might be over it. Or they might be, unenthused going after him.
They might. Yeah, exactly.
So I would say that's probably the most consistent and significant recruiting hindrance or advantage.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing that we talked about it. Yeah, a lot of the trap that a lot of new presidents fall under. It's going after out of state, out of region guys, and then something else we'll talk about later, but going after 4s and 5 stars too much.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go on. Well, we can briefly mention that. Obviously, the star rating is going to matter for how much it takes. 4s and 5 stars take more contacts to build interest on.
Yeah.
Right. I guess that's also pretty evident and pretty obvious. Yeah, I don't know. Not much to say about that. I don't think it's pretty self-explanatory.
It's expected, right? That's just the more talented guys you go for, the more you're gonna have to put in effort for it. Yeah.
Then again, maybe in-state and in-region recruiting was also self-explanatory. We just talked 20 minutes about it.
Yeah, but we gave actual evidence about the number of contacts and stuff. So, hey, that's valuable context.
Yeah, and our evidence here is that 4s and 5 stars take more contacts.
What we should do is classify our database and then average the amount of contacts per sub level for in-state versus out of region guys, because I've gone on enough out of region guys to know.
Yeah, I just feel like there's so many factors,
For sure. Yeah.
In the way I built it, there's just so much, and even then we're missing some things. But
yeah, but there's never going to be a scenario, at least in my experience, maybe a legend school has different or something, where you go on an out of region guy and you move up a sub level in 3 contacts. I don't think that's. I don't know from our experience, but I don't think that's likely.
It's happened to me late in the season, I think.
You've gone out of region and went up a sub level 3 contacts.
Yeah, I think I remember there was a guy, a big man in Wisconsin that I went after with Rochelle a little bit ago. Dave Hayes.
Yeah. See, you lying to me, mofo. Don't lie to me. I thought we had a special relationship.
Dave Hayes went to low on 7 contacts though.
Yeah, 7,
which was pretty good.
That's on the good end of out of region progression. But that's what it's 8, 9 is sort of what you identify as the average number for sub level growth for out of region guys. So thinking about that, to get to high, we're talking about low plus, medium plus, or medium plus to high. That's 7 sub levels. It's going to cost you at least 50, 60 contacts.
Right. Yeah.
And something that you can speak about is the fact that not each sub level progresses at the same rate.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention that I have gotten out of region guys to commit, even though they didn't get interest on 2 or 1 contact, but that was last few days of the season, basically. So
yeah, you can.
That's a special case.
Last few days of the season, if somebody doesn't have an offer and you put 1 point in an offer on them, they don't have any choice. They're, you're probably going to get a commitment. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Just wanted to mention that. Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned how there's inconsistencies. We'll get into that later though. Let's move on to our next shallow level topic. which is something we don't track actually on our spreadsheet. And maybe we should have, but now it's too late almost.
Yeah, unless we just start now. I mean, we're going to be playing for the next 10 million years.
I mean, it's not that hard to like backtrack either, though.
No.
So I mean, maybe we could add it. We just have to remember who the prospects, like which team was on which prospect.
This is beautiful podcasting.
Anyways, this next thing we're talking about is prestige, and we talked about it a little last episode, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah. So prestige, is just, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like, how well known is your school, I guess. Like, how well have they done? I mean, that's kind of rating, but rating doesn't have an effect. Yeah. Talk about prestige.
I think prestige is probably just an accurate reflection of like accrued success over time. I mean, it's the word prestige. We know what prestigious means, right? We know like prestigious universities are prestigious because they've been good for a long time. Like, it's just prestige. But in terms of what we want to talk about with prestige is the fact, so we have to credit somebody for providing us details in terms of like the prestige rewards you get for certain things. Because when we started the game, this was not something that was apparent to us. But it's popped up in the forums a number of times. What do I get prestige for? Does my prestige decline? Like, how much prestige do I get things for? And we already know prestige doesn't decline over time, which, is something that could be up for debate. But in terms of prestige rewards, P. Schwartz of the Richmond Spiders provided us with some good context. If you want to share those details with us.
Yeah, so you get 12 points for winning your regular season conference title, not the conference tournament, the regular season title. So, you have the best record in the conference after those 30 games, you get 12 points of prestige, which is a decent amount. At least to, those of us with like 30 and 40 prestige, maybe not to y'all with like 200 or whatever.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
You get 6 points for just making the national tournament. So, pretty good reward for just making it there. And then you get 12 points for making a Final Four. And then you get 12 more points for winning the national championship for that division. So if you win the D3 national championship, 12 points plus the other 12 points for making the Final Four, plus the 6 points for, making the tournament, that you get 30 prestige points right there.
And that's how you are Butler and your prestige is 222.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
That's just disgusting.
Yeah.
So you detailed what you're going to get prestige points for, right? But how is prestige actually going to play into your recruiting?
Well, the more you have, the more effect your points have. In terms of solid evidence, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't really, like we said, we don't track this, so we don't have a ton of solid evidence, empirical evidence to suggest anything. But we do have some anecdotal evidence with some of our guys.
Also, here's the thing: we haven't had the most successful teams either, so we haven't built a lot of prestige.
Yeah.
We've gotten a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. But yeah, you're right. Like we said, 222 is probably, if we added up the prestige of all of our teams, it probably doesn't get anywhere near 222.
Yeah, maybe we need to recruit some friends teams to join in on that, and then we might get there, get close.
Exactly, yeah. But so like we said, we don't have empirical evidence because we don't have a lot of prestige, but we also haven't tracked it. But we do have anecdotal evidence, like I said, of certain situations with players that sort of can give you an idea of how prestige might make some sort of impact. So why don't you share your story first?
Yeah, so let's see. New Rochelle was on, he was like a 2-star, sometimes a 3-star recruit. His name is Vicente Gomez. He's a current freshman on my team now. I love him.
I'm gonna bring him up.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna pull him up too. Hey, he's wonderful. His nickname is Quetzal. I nicknamed him this year.
Vicente Quetzal Gomez.
The bird, like the bird. I'm a fan of that bird. Yeah, so this guy, he let's see. He was a quick riser for me in terms of like interest. Like since he already committed, I don't need to like hide it or anything.
Yeah, you can go ahead and display it.
Yeah, it took him just 3 contacts to get to low, but then 5 to get to low plus, and then 6 to get to low plus plus. So like it was really fast to move up, and then just 8 plus the offer of the scholarship to get to medium. So you talk about 10 being a really good rate.
So just to
8.
clarify though,
Yeah.
right? You're saying at 8 total contacts, you got to medium with a scholarship offer.
Yes.
Yeah. So at 8 total contacts, not 8 contacts between low plus plus and medium. 8 total contacts from 0 to 8 for no interest to medium. Yeah. I just want to make sure that that's clear. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was in LL5 during that whole time. So like certainly not that high. And I mean, yeah, he's not like the best prospect, of course, but he was good for me. Like I said, I love him.
Number 1, that's a really cheap get, right? What was the total amount of contacts you spent on this guy? Do you know?
Yeah, so he committed on high plus at 14 contacts.
Okay, 14 contacts for, I mean, this guy is not a bad recruit by any means. He's a little bit short for a center. I imagine you'll probably play him at power forward.
Trying, but we'll see.
Yeah, but I mean, only a 2-star guy, but had solid high school growth. Already is what, +6?
Except his last 2 years, he was trash.
Yeah, but is he +6
yeah,
this year already? Yeah, +6. Yeah,
+6. Yeah,
already growing a bit.
But so the important part we're talking about is the prestige, and the prestige only gets added on when the flip occurs. So we're talking about the flip. I got 18 prestige that season for winning my conference tournament and winning my conference regular season title and making the tournament. Then I lost in the first round, which I'm still angry about. Not really, but actually, yeah. And then I promoted as well. So take all of that into account. That's a lot of different things other than just prestige, but all of it contributes. And so he went to medium plus, which is 1 more contact to 9 contacts, which doesn't seem that much. But then he went to high. He skipped over medium plus plus completely. He went to high on 11 contacts, so just 2 more after that. So yeah, prestige and the promotion to Division 1 definitely helped. The flip definitely helped.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious in that case. That the flip gave you some sort of advantage. You ended up on high. That's and like we said, if any team sees that player and is interested in them, and then sees that you're on high and you're now in D1, they're gonna be like, all right, forget that. Like, I don't want to compete with that.
Yeah, no, I had no competition ever for him.
Yeah. So maybe, just another example of the fact that you want to get on juniors if you're going to promote, or you have a good chance of promoting. Utilize that flip for your promotion and your prestige bump in terms of like getting to higher levels on your juniors and stuff. Yeah. So let me talk about my example. First of all, we're 42 prestige, which I think is higher than a 42. That's not me by any means.
Which team?
This is Santa Clara, good sir.
No, I mean, which of my teams?
Oh, whatever. I don't know. I don't track. 42 I don't care. As well. Oh, well, we're tied. Okay. So we go to the Santa Clara profile, and I just love this guy, Zion McAndrews. This is like,
it's a great name.
It's, first of all, he's going to be, if I get him, he's going to be my favorite recruit of all time. I don't even care. I think I'm going to call him Big Baby, but
this is like Zion Williamson, although not quite as athletic or fat.
Yeah, no, he's like right now 6'5", 195. He only has 25.5-inch vertical, which isn't great. He's got a nice wingspan. I'm hoping he has like another solid growth in him, so he gets to like at least 6'8". His projected height says 6'10". I don't think he gets there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so like 6'8" at least, so he can play like small center or power forward. But regardless, the whole point is prestige. Okay, so I love this guy, right? Last season, Blaster was at Santa Barbara before he left for Stanford. And he also freaking loved this guy because, he ended up getting on high on him. Now, when the season first started in the flip generated last season, Zion popped up on my radar, and I was like the first team to get on him. So I immediately went to medium. And I was like, okay, that's going to dissuade anyone. And then here comes Santa Barbara and Blaster, and immediately overnight goes from none to high. I woke up one morning and saw Santa Barbara on high and literally almost shit myself. I was like, God damn it. Like, no. I'm sure you remember that day. I was literally losing my mind.
I do remember that day. Yeah.
I was very unhappy.
You were not happy.
No, damn you, Blaster. But so long story short, okay, there's a confluence of factors here. Okay, long story short. So that season, I'm like losing over my words because I'm thinking about Zion and Blaster now. So there's a confluence of factors, like I said. So number one, I did not promote this past season. Okay, so his junior to senior year flip, I did not promote. I did make the national tournament, lost in the first round. So upset about that, just like you are. So I went from prestige 36 to 42. I gained 6 prestige points. Okay. Nothing, no other, factors besides that there. I gained
not that much, but
yeah,
it's still an increase. Yeah.
Yeah, not that much at all. Santa Barbara, meanwhile, demoted. But again, as we mentioned, you do not lose prestige for anything. You don't lose prestige for demoting or anything like that. So those are the two factors that we can have in mind when we discuss this. But long story short, I went from medium plus, okay, on Zion McAndrews to, and I'm just gonna unveil this so anybody is watching knows, to very high. I didn't go to high. I went to very high. Okay, I went to very high. That's like medium plus to very high. Now, another added detail for this is when I was recruiting Zion, I was not moving fast in levels. Okay, it took me 46 contacts to get to medium plus. So he was treating me like he was an out-of-state recruit or something. Zion did not want to come to Santa Clara. Maybe Zion wanted to go to Santa Barbara and party with all the, beautiful women, but whatever. He did not want to come to Santa Clara. Like I said, I was at 46 contacts on medium plus. So the flip occurs. I gain 6 prestige points. Santa Barbara demotes. Santa Barbara goes from high, and I don't know what level, sub-level of high they were on, to low. I go from medium to very high. So
and that's without spending anything, right?
That's without spending any points. I literally woke up on day one after the flip and I went from medium plus to very high. And I literally exploded. Like literally.
That was the best day of his life.
That was the best day of my life. I'm sure you remember in the Discord when I was freaking the F out.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and then, but like we said, all I had was a +6 bump in prestige, right? Now, of course, Santa Barbara demoting probably plays some into that, but I didn't typically think that another team's interest level dropping in any way could factor into my interest level rising, right? And at the time, Chapman and Sonoma State were not wasting their time trying to get him when they're not going to get him. It was just us two. Okay, so yeah, I was not under the impression that, oh, hey, Santa Barbara bumps to low, so maybe that helps me jump to high. I didn't think that was a thing.
Yeah, like you said, I don't know. I mean, it's clear. It's not clear, I guess, but it does seem like Santa Barbara demoting affected your or Zion's interest level in Santa Clara. So, or Santa Barbara's demotion, affected Santa Clara. I've never heard of that either. So I don't know, but it might have happened. It might have been the case. That's something we don't know.
We really don't. And it's not like I graduated any players at his position. The only player that graduated is Theo Dixon. He was a center. Zion McAndrews is a power forward. And right now, in terms of recruiting. So sure, it probably has some overlap in terms of stuff like that. Yeah. But like, it was not exactly like clogged right in front of him in terms of playing time, is my point.
It wasn't either way. Yeah. Whether Dixon graduated or not.
Yeah, it was. So it's not like I had a bunch of players lined up his position in front of him and then they graduated or something.
Yeah. So like we said, this is not something we've seen ever really. I don't think we've been playing long enough to see it. So maybe one of our viewers like has seen that where like another team demotes and as a result, their interest rose as well. Like an extraordinary amount though. Like obviously we expect it to rise because of the flip and maybe prestige, but like how many levels did you say? Like 3 sub levels?
Medium plus to very high.
right? So you're skipping over medium plus plus, high plus, and high plus plus, 4 levels. You skipped over 4 levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think 6 prestige and the flip does just that. So like there must have been something else. Again, if anyone watching has had that or seen that, like let us know.
The
That'd be
only
interesting.
the only other substantial factor that I think could play into this was the fact that right at the beginning of the season, everybody jumped on new assistant coaches, right? And I immediately jumped on a new assistant coach named Shane Blackman, who has like 11 level in recruiting versus the guy I let go was like a 9. But number one, we don't even have evidence of the fact that firing assistant coaches does anything for your recruiting. And number two, I fired a guy. So if anything, you would think that would be a negative result instead of like, oh, hey, this guy's a better recruiter, so it's just going to bump up with no penalty or something. You would think firing coaches, no matter what, at least from what we know about head coaches, is going to incur a penalty regardless of what the new coach is rated.
I mean, I've heard, yeah, assistants are still so new. We don't know a lot about them still.
Yeah.
I've heard that, firing an assistant coach will have a small effect, but if you make a change like it seems like you did with a negative recruiter for in exchange for a positive one, it can actually like help your recruiting. But this occurred before you made that change, didn't it? I don't remember.
I don't see, that's the thing, is I don't remember. I remember like
Yeah.
I think it was the morning of the flip, because the flip occurs usually later in the day. I think it was the morning of the flip because that was when we could first hire new assistants, right?
Yeah, but I thought you were late on that.
Yeah. I remember I like panicked, and it was August 31st, 2017 was the August 31st, 2017 was the day of the flip. Yeah, I don't know the dates. I don't remember exactly. So that's one thing that's a little bit of an unknown in this scenario. But it's an assistant coach, not a head coach, right? It's not, you know, it's not a considerable head coach change. I didn't think assistants would play into it that significantly that it would matter. And I certainly don't know if that was the case for this one. Yeah,
Because
because
I remember messaging you guys saying it at like 10:30 in the morning, and like none of us had made any moves yet with the
right,
assistants.
because I remember you said you were going to drive home and think about it first, and then I panicked and took coaches.
Yeah. I don't remember. But I mean, even then, again, unless this assistant you picked up is like, or unless the difference between the two is like huge, I don't think it should have been 4 levels worth
Right.
on a
Yeah.
4-star recruit.
Right. Exactly. Like
And this is
there's
the
just no
LL5
way.
team. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that does tie in nicely with our look at Rob, who's just a pro at transitioning to our next little topic here.
I'm amazing.
Coaching recruiting ability.
I'm amazing.
Yeah. So like that's something that's pretty obvious. Just I think it's as obvious as like in-state and in-region recruiting, like making a huge difference compared to out of region. Like your coach's recruiting ability is important. Definitely. I wouldn't say it's the most important thing. It's probably worth only like, I don't know, a few points for every sub level. But it helps. Because like if you have a guy who's average in recruiting 10, right? Versus a guy like we have with like, you have like a 17, I have like some 12s or 13s. Or I guess just between your difference in mine, like my 12s and 13s versus your 17, right? Or 16. It takes us about 3 contacts either way to get to low on anyone in state at least, right?
Yeah.
And then it takes us to like 6 or 7 to get to low plus. It takes us 10-ish to get to medium, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever gotten to like low on anything less than 3. 3's usually been the most aggressive. I look on our spreadsheet. I don't know if this is you or not, but Sean Wilkes looks like he
That's
got to low
one
on
of our friends.
2 contacts.
That's one of our friends. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess 2 is possible. It says, he's got 2 examples here of low on 2 contacts and 2 in Scully.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I feel
yeah,
like I've had some 2s, but
Yeah.
maybe I don't see any.
Yeah.
I'm pretty high
I
up
was
there.
like thinking either because I have like a 17 rated coach in recruiting.
Who, you know
Um,
who took two? You know who
who,
took two to get to low, Rob?
who?
Bruce Spann.
Oh, Bruce.
Bruce Spann.
Bruce spanning the globe.
Yeah.
It's the lamest nickname of all
Oh,
time.
Rob Vernon took two.
Did he really? That was such a long
Yeah.
time ago.
Yeah,
I,
that was the first. That was Rob's and I combined. That was the first recruit to sign with any of our teams. So
yep, I remember.
we're gonna bask in the glory a little bit for
Rob
this
Vernon
whole
signed
season.
for 5 contacts. Shane Land signed for 42, and they're
I remember
two
I
and three on
remember
my
you
all-time scoring
struggling.
list.
I remember you struggling with Shane Land so much because particularly because Rob Vernon took like so little, he was so fast to commit, and then because we were so new, we didn't know like how many contacts it really took, and also Shane Lane, like I don't know, he wasn't super duper good or anything. Yeah, I'm gonna shut him down. What did he go against me in our playoff game, our playoff matchup?
Continue.
You were just like every day, and I mean I was like this with a lot of my guys, right? With the Hankin, especially, you know, like when will they commit? When will they commit? Like it's been 30 plus contacts.
You were yanking for Hankin.
I was yanking.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Oh, yanking for Hankin. What good times, good sir.
Yeah. Oh man.
What good times.
All right. So let's move on to like our next. Let's dig a little deeper, shall we?
Let's dig. We're diggers.
All right. So something that's like a little more unknown, I guess. I mean, we all like know the effects, but we don't. Sorry, we all know that it affects our recruiting, but we don't know how much, right? And so that's kind of this level of thought, I guess, or I don't know, analysis. Yeah.
So
Um,
the things that we're going to talk about right now are less visible in terms of your recruiting. Their impact on your recruiting is less visible than the things we just mentioned, is what you're trying to
Thank
say.
you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. See, I don't know, you know. So like the one thing, the first thing we'll talk about is the number of scholarships available, right? We've seen it a lot where like these bot teams or sometimes not even bot teams have like tons of scholarship availables and just nab the guys that we've been targeting, right? It's so frustrating. I know everyone's posted about it in the Discord and the forums about it, and but like it's a big deal, right?
Well, like tanking your roster to have 0 recruits or to have 0 scholarship players or to have like less than 5 and then using that advantage to get recruits is very annoying. And it's something that a lot of teams have done, as a taking strategy to get good over time. And it kind of pisses us off. But I mean, it just goes to show you the power of having scholarships available in terms of recruiting, especially like highly rated guys, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Or you can just post a PR in all caps saying, "I won't new player. I won't payment new." I'm mean. I'm too mean.
No, we should be showing these. Oh God, that was incredible, by the way.
um.
What team was that? Do you remember?
Yeah. I know. Franklin Pierce.
We're pulling it up. I don't care.
You know, this is a team that was in D1 for a while, and then like they've recruited literally no one for like 2 seasons or something. That's a PR for you guys.
I won't new player. Hello, I won't payment new player.
I don't know. Maybe there's a language barrier, but I don't know who you paying. Who's paying people here?
If you said hello, I won't new player, then I'd be like, okay, maybe just we're trying to say want, but what's the payment? What
Yeah.
like
That's the fishy part to
do
me.
you have a bagman? Are you USC? Are you like the expert cheater? Like what is going
Okay,
on
well
here?
their bagman needs to be fired because look at their recruiting like history. Go to history here.
Hello, I won't payment new player. Yeah, he needs to be fired tomorrow. Oh, they went 0-41 last season.
Oh, they were winless last season. Whoa.
Yeah. Look at this TPI drop off 135 to 91.5.
Yeah, see, so some bagmen may need to be fired there.
You know what? We give props when props are due, and this is a total project. Gringo decided to take on a project. We're not mad at it. Do you think minus
Hey, yeah.
1828? Their total point differential in the season was negative 1828. It was negative 1450 in conference. What?
Wow. Yeah.
Their RPI
Yeah,
was
wow.
still 0.46 with 41 losses.
He's
I am genuinely
yeah.
stunned.
Oh, wow.
Do you think
Holy
this is supposed to
moly.
be like gringo, like white person, like slang for white person?
That's what I think. Yeah.
Okay,
I think
yeah,
so.
all right. Well, I don't know about this guy anymore. I'm a gringo. Active, well, somewhat active.
They're pretty
Anyways,
active, yeah.
anyways.
All right. So that's hilarious. So they have like no scholarships being taken up. I think they have some juniors and seniors right now, but there's plenty of these teams. They have a lot of that is an advantage. I don't, like we said, we don't approve of like purposefully doing that, but it is an advantage in recruiting.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's well discussed, like we said. The more open scholarships you have, the better off you're going to be getting, especially top-rated recruits. It's just a factor.
And like part of that is because scholarships usually go to better players. And so, the better your roster is, the harder it is for a recruit to see playing time. And they like playing time like earlier on, obviously later on too, but like they want to be able to play as soon as possible. And so that gets into like how stacked the positions are. We can talk about scholarships, but you may have all your scholarships in big men, and then that should make it really easy to get guards, though, recruit guards, because there's no guards ahead of them to take up playing time, right?
Yeah, there's literally none. And if you're a recruit and you're looking for playing time and there's no guards ahead of you, that's where you're going to go.
But you mentioned it a little bit with Zion earlier, but I think there's more drastic examples too, where like, obviously we all see a player, a recruit is like listed at a certain position, right? And then we see that they're eligible at more positions potentially. But like these recruits, here's what we don't see, and we don't know. They see themselves as playing some positions on your team or on a team. And so that's what they'll take into account, those positions, and where, how many players are ahead of them on the depth chart. And if they're lacking, if your roster is lacking in one of those areas, then they will be more likely to, like your team and be interested in joining it.
Little did Matthew McGrath know he's going to play point guard.
Yeah, right. So like we all see that position that's listed. That may not be our plan for that player, but that might be part of their plan. The plan we have for them may not be what they see themselves doing in once they get to college.
Yeah.
So that's definitely like a really unpredictable thing, which is cool. I kind of like that.
But not to mention the fact that like in season, players will play different high school positions, right? Or different positions in high school. Like, didn't you at one time have a center you're recruiting that was like point guard, and you're like, what?
One time, it happens like every season.
Yeah, you're like, what is going on? Like, why are you playing point guard? Your high school must be trash.
The 6'7" forward Dominican is on for this senior class, Alan Fontana. He's, I believe, playing only at point guard this senior season.
Interesting. That's really weird. And then that goes back into like the idea that we used to talk about before of like do players grow when they're playing at different positions and stuff like that.
Right. But like it doesn't even make sense, because this is a player who has comments of like will be a below average ball handler and will never be a good perimeter defender. So like why would he play at point guard? Huntington Park High School or whatever your high school is.
Who knows, because they are trash and they need their best player to play. I mean, who knows? Like Magic Johnson played some point guard in high school because his high school is trash. Like that's just the reality of it.
Mhm.
You know, maybe they're like Harbor High School in Springdale, Arkansas, and they have no athletic talent. They're just pure trash.
Yeah, I mean, I know Monte Ellis played center for his high school in Mississippi because there's like no one there.
Really?
Yeah, Monte Ellis was the center. He like did the jump ball, but then he was also the point guard because he would like bring the ball up and then he scores like 80 points in a game type of stuff.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's Mississippi. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of stuff, not a lot of talent like Monte Ellis there.
Hey, we have some
usually.
Mississippi listeners. All right, shut up.
I mean,
I don't
I'm
know,
talking
maybe
real
we do.
life too. You know,
I don't know. Maybe we do.
I think we do. I think we do.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, we talk about the number of position or number of players ahead of them on the depth chart, but then take into account like star ratings too, right? That's important.
Yeah, definitely important. Like if you're a 3-star recruit, small forward, and there's like 2 4-stars or 5-stars ahead of you on the depth chart, that's going to be a deterrent. Like that's not surprising. You know, that's going to be something that, you know, you're not going to be too enthused about. And those sort of things matter in this game. There's an actual mathematical component in terms of, you know, this game that takes that into account. So it's something that everybody needs to keep in mind.
Yeah. So, you know, then we can talk about red shirts though, because I think that's been a big question, certainly to us, just because we're so new and we're just getting into like, you know, we redshirted quite a few of our, you know, first classes, but now we're seeing the effects of those red shirts. Sometimes I know you haven't felt the effects of redshirting as much. Maybe you're starting to, and I feel like I have, but I don't know for sure, you know.
The only time I've ever felt like, because I've redshirted with Santa Clara, I've redshirted Modest Lucas, who's a 5-star, an international 5-star player. That's the only 5-star I've ever gotten, and the only 4-star I ever got was Cole Brown, and I'm redshirting them this year. But I certainly don't think I noticed any redshirting penalty for redshirting Modest Lucas. I really don't, because I landed Cole Brown the season after when I was an interest level below the team that was on high.
Well, okay, but the red shirt penalty occurs after the red shirt occurs,
Right. So
not
like
while it's redshirting.
no, it was after it was like, oh, okay. So
They
you're
would
saying,
need
yeah,
to be 2 years
he was
apart.
redshirt. Yeah, they need to be 2 years apart. That's it. So then, yeah, maybe I haven't noticed it, or maybe the redshirt penalty was in effect for Zion, and maybe that's why it was
Yeah.
taking forever to go to medium plus 46 contacts.
Okay, but what about like Oswego? Because I know you've redshirted some 4-stars there.
Yeah,
Have you felt anything with them?
no, like I moved very quickly on Kerry Schultz. Actually, I don't know if I tracked this one in the database, but I
No,
remember
but
moving.
Calvert was the red shirt that would have affected, not Kerry Schultz, the one after.
That's true. I got to think about my recruiting classes now.
For
Because
me,
I took a big class and then I didn't take big classes after that. Or no, I took Ralph Peck,
yeah,
who's
right.
also a 4-star point guard, who committed at 30 contacts. Although to be fair, it took 30 contacts to get to low plus plus. So
would you say that maybe was an effect? I mean,
yeah, I would say so, because he was an in-state guy and it took 10 plus a Scully to get to low, 20 to get to low plus, and 30 to get to low plus plus. Certainly, like we've just been detailing, 10 contacts per sub level is like an out-of-state sort of number, not an in-state.
yeah. And then again, we're not sure how long that really lasts, because like Oswego hasn't gone after any 4-stars since, I don't think.
No.
Since Peck. Santa Clara.
Okay, so that's
like you said,
this is an interesting point though, because so we've heard before that the redshirt penalty is how long?
I mean, I've heard different things. I've heard it's 2 years. I've heard it's 4 years. Because I've heard it can depend on the star rating.
Modest Lucas is a 5-star. He's a redshirt junior, so it's been 3 seasons following his. This is the 3rd season following his redshirt, right? And Santa Clara is currently on Bruce Erb, who was one of the
also 4-star.
who's also a 4-star and was one of the players that was a a newly generated player at the flip. He's a 4-star 13 pot, and we're moving at like a normal expected pace on him.
Okay. Huh. So yeah, I mean, that's really surprising to me.
So I'm not going to
Especially
give
given as a
a ton of
5-star.
specific details because I don't, that's
Right.
still an
The
active
race is still
competition.
ongoing. Yeah.
But
yeah.
with Bruce Erb, it was 5 contacts plus a Scully to get to low, 9 to get to low plus, and 13 to get to low plus plus.
Yeah, which is I would kind of expect from a 4-star.
That's a little fast for a 4-star.
Normally. Yeah, that's even maybe a little fast. Yeah, so like the reason why I'm asking all these questions, and like I don't have any answers, is because I'm just redshirting my 4-stars this season with each of my teams. So like I literally have no idea of these answers. Like I've redshirted not all of my players, but like a lot of my 3-stars and 2-stars, and I feel like I've noticed an effect on my recruiting because of that. And maybe it's more because of like the positional depth as we just talked about, rather than the redshirting purely because redshirting.
Yeah.
But it's like I just don't know why I felt more of an effect, I feel like, from that than like you have from redshirting 4-stars and 5-stars.
I honestly, like, unless it's 2 years, right? And because there's been a lot of talk about the fact that the redshirting penalty doesn't apply to recruiting 3-stars. So if that's the case, like, then sure, because I've only been recruiting 3-stars at Santa Clara since 3-stars and 2-stars. If this is the 3rd year of after following his redshirt penalty and I'm not noticing it on Bruce Erb, then 2 sounds more accurate to me than 4.
Yeah, and like we can't really compare with Zion McAndrews either, except for like last year when you were building him up. But now we can't gauge that difference.
Yeah,
because you're already on a very high.
Right. And so it's sort of interesting because that could be one of the reasons that it took 41 contacts to get to medium plus. Right. That could be one of the reasons, is the fact that I was the redshirt penalty still applied.
And that could also be a reason why you jumped up more than expected at the flip, because that changed from that 2 to the second year to the 3rd year.
Yeah. The penalty went away. It's possible.
Who knows though?
Interesting. That's something we never thought about.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. See, this is why we podcast, so we can discover things.
Interesting. Like I like it.
But yeah, I mean, like, I'm just not sure. Yeah. How long it lasts. I mean, basically, yeah, I have a lot of like redshirt sophomores, redshirt freshmen that may be clogging it up and true freshmen for, these guys that have taken like extremely long to raise interest levels. So again, these are like 3-stars and 2-stars. So I maybe it's just positional depth, maybe it's just redshirting. It's certainly not because of like star level, I wouldn't think.
So I'm with both Santa Clara and Oswego, I'm redshirting 4-stars this year. So, this is a good chance for me to track if there's a 2-year penalty based on sort of how difficult it is to recruit in the coming seasons. Because I don't shy away from recruiting 4 and 5-stars with both those schools. Both Kerry Schultz and Cole Brown are redshirting this year, 2 of my better players. They're both 4-stars, so I'll have to keep an eye on it. We can update in a couple of months after those 2 seasons.
Yeah, Rob can take care of that. I'll keep track of the 3-stars and 2-stars recruiting being affected, because I don't see myself going after many 4 or 5-stars, truthfully. But I might jump in a little bit every now and then.
Yeah, no, you're too scared.
Pretty much.
Anyways,
yeah. So I mean, I think it's just still a question. Like, we don't know. I'm sure other people have better data, but I mean, it's also like, it seems like it's an individual case by case basis on top of that,
Yeah, I mean, again, we don't have all the answers. We're just postulating, right? We're just going off of our little bits of empirical evidence and our anecdotal evidence. And like I said, I'm actually going to track it the next 2 years because now it's an interesting case study between two different programs with different prestige levels, with different roster scenarios and stuff. So it might be a good chance to glean some insight from that.
Yeah. All right, and then let's hit our deepest level. Not real quick, but
let's hit deep.
Maybe real quick. I don't know. Let's get deep.
Let's get real deep.
Deep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So lead us into the deep level.
I mean, we kind of just hit on it a little bit, but I've expressed this in the Discord, I think, a little bit as well, and certainly to you. Again, it just seems like really random and it's case by case sometimes. I've detailed this one prospect that one of my teams is on. I guess I'm just competing against a bot. It doesn't matter if I reveal who it is. I'm on an out-of-state recruit with College of New Rochelle, Sonny McAfee.
Should we pull him up?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's pull this mofo up.
Mr. McAfee.
Sonny boy.
Out of state. I understand it'll take a lot of contacts to move on him. But I started in his sophomore year, and you can see I'm on medium, and there's a bot also on medium. And he has that no preference to play close to home. So I thought, even though that other team is in state for him, it doesn't have an advantage over me. So anyways, it took 12 contacts to get to low, 12 plus an offer. So that's a lot, but it's not unheard of, right?
No.
And then it took me 20, not 29 more, 17 more to get to 29, to get to low plus. So 17, that's a bit more.
That's a bit more. Yeah.
And obviously a different number than 12. But then, fortune smiled upon me and the flip occurred, as well as that promotion and 18 prestige that I received with Rochelle. And it only took me 2 more contacts to get to low plus plus. And I'm at 31 contacts at low plus plus. So a more normal amount. And then it just took me 1 more contact to get to medium, actually. So 32 contacts at medium. Pretty good, right? We're pretty good. Then it took me 19 contacts to get to medium plus. That's another big number. Pretty big. All right, here's the killer though. It took me 48 contacts to get to medium plus plus. Just 1 sub-level. Plus a flip, actually, I believe in there.
So it took you
plus the
48
and
contacts.
I didn't demote. I didn't change coaches.
It took you 48 contacts to go from medium plus to medium plus plus. Not 48 total, 48 for that sub-level alone.
Yes, 48 for that sub-level alone. Almost double of what I had invested already. Yep.
That's disgusting.
So obviously not every sub-level will increase at the same rate. I understand that. But I'm not sure exactly what changed. Obviously, yes, like I said, I redshirted some guys. My depth chart might have gotten a little clogged at center specifically where McAfee might play, for me. But it was with 2 stars and 1 3-star who I'm shifting a small forward. I didn't think it would affect him as much as it did.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've had similar situations where I'm redshirting guys and they don't take 48 contacts to move 1 sub-level.
No, that's I've never seen that before.
Despite maintaining, I've maintained this redshirting philosophy throughout my time. So I'm not sure why. Again, it just seems kind of random and unexplained, and I'm fine with it being like that. It's just that can happen. So if anyone knows why, again, I mean, it's kind of been in the Discord, but hey, it was a lot.
You are not fine with it being like that. Why are you lying to everyone?
I appreciate that this game has random factors that can surprise people and not make it super easy and predictable.
Sir,
I just don't like that it happened to me in this case.
I can screen share the Discord, sir. So yeah, I mean, I've never seen a situation like that. That's a crap ton of context to move one single sub level with no real explanation that you can think of, besides the fact that there's just random differences between players, and this might be a scenario where there's a random difference.
Yeah, I don't think I've really seen that either in my time, with anybody. So I don't know. Do you have any examples that have been weird?
Yeah, so like the only thing I can think of is like when I tried recruiting two separate internationals that were big men. So the first one that comes to mind is Jin Wong, who was a center from Asia, from China, sorry, a center from China, that was a 12-pot 3-star that's now on UC Santa Cruz, wasting away at the bottom of the division. Look where you could have been, or wasting away at the bottom of the conference. But it took 14 contacts to get him to low, and then like 41 contacts to get to low plus plus.
Ooh.
Yeah, and he didn't have a ton of like interest in front of, or a ton of players in front of him or anything like that. So like the previous mentioned examples don't really, exist. And then a player I got recently by the name of Roger Dean, who is an international center from Canada, that is not a 3-star, he's a 2-star, I believe. But I know that I moved up to medium plus plus when he committed, and it was about 32 contacts to get to that sub level. So, it's about as close of an apples to apples comparison as I can get, because they're both international big men, and they're both in sort of same situations in terms of the depth chart and stuff. And there's just lots of variation in terms of how many contacts it takes to get sub levels, to go rise sub levels, like one was literally committed at 32 contacts at medium plus plus, and the other one was at 41 contacts at low plus plus.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, again, like we know, or you knew, like international, both Canadian and Chinese, like it's going to take a lot of context, but like you can still compare those two against each other. And it just looked like there were stark differences. I mean, maybe it was because one would be entering as a freshman and one's entering as a junior, but like you said, they were in similar situations in terms of the depth chart when they would come in no matter what. So I mean, it just seems weird that there was that big of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, there's no intangible factor that I can come up with in my mind that explains it. Like, I remember being flummoxed in the recruitment of Jin Wong and like, why is this taking so long? What is going on? And like not having that scenario in any other situation, really.
Yeah. Okay. And then like, what's the last thing? We're almost done. I don't know why I needed to say that.
So the very last thing is a huge
topic.
is a hugely important detail that we found out that even some of the most experienced users don't know. And this stuns me because this is something that like teams could capitalize on. And we have already mentioned it this episode, but teams could capitalize on this so easily. So what are we talking about?
Yeah, it's the thing that we probably look forward to most on that Friday of the flip. I mean, we have like, I don't know, crossed off several hours of work to like get home to look at this. It's new players.
We once Zoomed for like 6.5 hours talking new recruits.
And I spent no points that whole time. It's that new recruits are generated at the flip. New, like you've never seen them before. No one could have put points on them. They are brand spanking new, but some of them are really, really good.
Yeah. Like 4s and 5-stars that are seniors will generate at the flip. Like I had already mentioned the fact that I got Ralph Peck. Ralph Peck was somebody with Oswego, a 4-star point guard. Ralph Peck was somebody that newly generated at the flip. I spent a large portion of my points to get to high, and I never had one single ounce of competition on him. And he's a pretty good eval player and a pretty good player. Like,
I know we're always hoping for like the big man to show up, like a good big man to show up, and like it rarely happens. No. Rarely happens. But I got one. I remember a few years ago, right?
But that's always the hope because big man recruiting is so bad that like
Yeah.
There's the one guy that's going to pop up and we're going to spend all 45 points on him, which, yes, we stack to get 45 points by the time the new season starts.
I mean, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I only get to 39.
Oh, well, you're more efficient. I would take the cut down on half penalty in order to get 45.
Fair, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so new players are generated the flip. It's not a lot. It's not like it's you can't rely on that to like form your entire recruiting class. You should definitely be getting on juniors, sophomores, freshmen if you're crazy, I guess. I don't know if I would at this, certainly not at this point in the
You've gotten
season.
on freshmen.
I mean, yeah, when they're a 15 pot 5-star who,
Center.
a big man, yeah.
Yeah.
But like not, other guys really who have not shown that growth history.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, so I wouldn't rely on the newly generated players to form your entire recruiting class, but you might be able to like find a good player to add on.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
just this season alone, we have, like, I've talked about Bruce Erb that I'm going after with Santa Clara. That's a
Mhm.
4-star guy, big man. And Cal State Fullerton signed a 4-star point guard, Odell Haynes, that was generated at the flip. I'm pretty sure he didn't have a single ounce of competition. Signed him by like week
Mhm.
7 or day 7, I mean.
I know both prospects Dominican is on were both newly generated at the flip.
And do you have competition?
Yeah, I have 2 out of state D3, out of region D3 teams on them. Well, I won one already.
I said competition, sir.
I mean, there are other teams like
Out of state
it
D3,
is,
they can F off.
it's not likely for them, yeah.
No, it's not likely.
But yeah, like okay, for in this case, it did form my entire recruiting class, but well, it may not. It may not if I don't win the second guy, but I won one, and they are my main targets. But like, it's just I wouldn't rely on it. I had
Yeah.
other targets. I had other people built in already. So yeah, that I think is important though to be able to realize, to take advantage of. Like you said, if you jump on them fast and really strong, no one will show up on them, even if they're a 5-star, in like the top 10 guy in the state or something.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you're armed with your full complement of points on day 1 and a 4 or 5-star pops up and you were the first person to start jumping levels on him, and because he's in state, he moves to medium plus plus or high, like if you want to spend enough, there's very few teams that are going to be like, I should still spend on that guy when a team's already on high. You may get a very little to no competition 4 or 5-star in this game from your own state, which is very rare, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and it's tough to predict like who will be the guy that no one else goes on, because like I don't know, for me, I see that 5-star and I'm immediately thinking, oh, that guy's going to get a ton of competition, and then it turns out they don't, and then it's like, well, what the heck?
Yeah, opportunity missed.
Yeah, right. And that's kind of just how I react. Like you said, I mean, a lot of our listeners are really smart, experienced people. And a lot of our listeners are new presidents. So like a lot of the experienced presidents, they, number one, already have their targets because they have been good at managing their points. And so they put them out into future classes. And so they're already kind of invested in those guys rather than these new guys who show up. And so that's that area that a new president who doesn't have their recruiting board is built as much can jump in on and take advantage of. But and then also these more experienced owners, though, they realize that like trying to catch up from behind on a team that's already at high, like even if they're LL6, I guess that's kind of rare for a 5-star though. It's possible, I guess, though. It's like they might be able to win. Azusa Pacific might be able to get to high pretty quickly on that new 5-star that LL6 team is also on, but it's not an efficient use of their points,
right?
For Azusa Pacific. So, Basoy is clearly smart and good at this game. I would think, they're not always going to go for that 5-star. I mean, hey, maybe it happens, but it's there hasn't been a history of it happening. So
yeah, and it's like why spend 35 to 40 contacts on someone that you already are going to be at equal interest level with the other team? Because you're putting yourself at a disadvantage at the start of the season in terms of recruiting other players. And that recruit battle might drag on all freaking season. You're dumping a bunch of points and then you lose your guy.
Yeah.
And then your whole recruiting season essentially goes to shit.
Yeah. But we say all this and like, I don't know. It's also you got to teach the new guy some lessons sometimes, and knock him around some too. So yeah.
Very true. Very true. Impose your power. I know you love doing that, Andrew.
Yeah, I do. All right. I don't know. Is there anything else to mention here? Anything else on your mind?
I think that's it. Feel free to, discuss in the forums. We have a podcast section of the forums that we get some good commentary, especially from like NAF on. Please feel free to discuss anything we talk about on there. Also, comment on our videos, like comment our videos and stuff. Comment in the Discord. We just want to hear what you guys have to say about what we say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, man. That was a good talk.
That was a lot longer than we intended, but that's just how it goes with podcasting when you're talking about hardwood.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
Seriously.
When you're two idiots, that's just how it goes.
Man. Total podcast idiots. Man.
Total podcast idiots. We have to live up to our name.
Yeah.
All right. Total podcast idiots signing off.
See you later.
See ya.